I'm Mary for Creation TV, and I'm so pleased to have George Takei with us again today. Now, you're always a fan favorite at these conventions, and there was a line all the way to the end of the auditorium to talk to you. How do you keep it new? How do you have the energy to tell all these exciting stories?
Well, you know, some of the stories have been told before, but it's like being in a long-run Broadway show or a long-run anything, you know. It may be the 100th time or the 200th time for you, for me, but for the audience there, it's the first time.
There's always
and you owe the same performance that you gave the opening night performance audience. And so, you know, and I really am grateful to the fans because they're the ones that made this amazing phenomenon of Star Trek. It's not just a TV series anymore, and it's not just a series of movies, but it's, you know, cruises, conventions, books, you know, this myriad of manifestations of Star Trek.
Its own.
And it's the fans that made it possible. So I see it as an opportunity for me to say thank you to them.
Now, you just received an award from the Screen Actors Guild for diversity.
Yes.
Now, how do you feel Asians are depicted in the media now? Do you think it's better than it was a few years ago?
Well, you know, in terms of diversity, I think it's certainly improved tremendously since the 60s because Star Trek was about the only show that embodied diversity as richly and as fully as Star Trek did. So we've made tremendous progress since that time. However, you know, speaking from the Asian American vantage point, we still have a long ways to go because back then we didn't have more than one African American star, Sidney Poitier, and the others, you know, they weren't good enough. But now we have a whole plethora, you know, Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, you know. So the thing is to give opportunities. Right now, we don't have an Asian American leading lady or a leading man. There are Asian leading men, Jackie Chan, you know, or Ken Watanabe, but they're foreigners. Asian Americans have not been given that opportunity yet. So we still have that distance to go. But the depiction of Asian Americans have improved tremendously, and the opportunities have increased significantly.
Now, you've seen the new Star Trek movie, of course. What did you think of the homage to you with the swashbuckling sword of Sulu?
Yeah, that was fantastic. And, you know, that is an homage to my fencing scene. But that sword was very either futuristic or antique. I don't know. It was a very unique sword. But I look like John Cho, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the flip-floppy nature of the Proposition 8 situation? Is it a matter of miscommunication out there?
No. You know, the African-American community is a church-going community. And I think we first thought that African Americans would be most understanding because they have been subjected to discrimination historically. But they are also very religious. And the misunderstanding that they have is that this is not a religious issue. It's a civil issue. Churches are not mandated to perform same-sex marriage, and yet they were told that. So it was based on that kind of misinformation. And, you know, there's diversity of religious faiths as well. We got married in a Buddhist ceremony, and no one religion or faith base should write their religious beliefs into civil law. And that applies to everybody. You know, how would you like it if Buddhist beliefs were written into civil law and Christians and Jews and Muslims all had to go by that, you know? So that understanding was not clear, that this is not a religious matter. There's a strict separation between church and state. And yet in churches they said, we will be forced to perform same-sex marriage. And so I think that is becoming more clearly understood.
How do you dispel that? How do you combat that?
Information. You know, people are rational people. During that election, there were all these ads taken out, you know, and again, the money for those ads came from a religious base, a Mormon church and the Catholic church, and you know they were the ones that were disseminating false information, a distortion, prevarication, actually, because they were saying the very opposite of what the law says.
Right.
So that understanding is becoming more and more clear. It's a civil process. It's a civil marriage that has nothing to do with churches, and churches will not be mandated to perform anything against their tenant.
Good to know. Now let's take it back to Star Trek for a minute. When you came back to do Star Trek: The Motion Picture, what was it like reuniting with the old cast members? Did you fall back into place like it was nothing, or was it a little awkward at first?
No, it wasn't awkward. It was glorious, and particularly because it was unexpected. It was 10 years, a decade after we were canceled, you know, and in show business, you know, cancellations happen all the time.
Right.
Plays close, movies wrap, you know, so that's nothing unusual. And so, although it was painful when a series that we were proud of got canceled, you know, we're professionals and we went our own way and continued with our careers. And then this fan thing started to heat up, and they decided to make a feature film. So when we got on the set, got into, well, the costumes were quite different and not the most comfortable.
Right.
So there was that discomfort, but to get together, you know, the cast that we worked with daily for 3 years, you know, was wonderful. To, you know, we were hugging and laughing with each other joyously, and then to move on to that circular-shaped bridge. Very familiar in geometric form, but so much more up to date, streamlined,
definitely.
and steely and shiny, glistening. You know, that was glorious. And then to start speaking those lines, it was a fantastic experience.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Good chatting with you. Hi, I'm George Takei, and you're watching Creation TV.